Kansas City Chiefs take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both teams are looking for bounce-back wins after a disappointing Week 3 loss. The Kansas City Chiefs are still looking for revenge over their Super Bowl loss. And Shaq Barrett says some things never change, and we will discuss if that's true with the Kansas City Chiefs O-line. But before we do get into any of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. We're going to kick this video off by discussing the location of the game, because even though it is slated for Tampa, with everything that's going on with Hurricane Ian, it just looks highly unlikely that it will take place there. Now, things can change in the coming days, but right now, Tampa is being heavily affected by this hurricane, and it just doesn't seem right to have a game there. Now, the NFL does have a backup stadium, and it will be the Minnesota Vikings Stadium, and that seems like where Sunday Night Football will be held. With that, too, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are taking practice in Miami. Kansas City is holding practice as normal, too, and they both are underway fully. I'll give you more details once we get the exact location of the game. I don't think it'll be in Tampa, but again, you never know, because the NFL can push through and follow through with that, or it could be in Minnesota. I really think this will be a last-second decision. I think they really want to have the game in Tampa, but I don't know how that's going to be possible, so I don't think we will get news on that until Friday, which I think is very too late to hear. I think both teams need to be aware, and I think like fans that I don't even know how fans can go to Tampa and see the game, and also too, I don't know Minnesota too, how they would sell tickets. It's just a very weird and unfortunate situation going on because of Hurricane Ian. So hopefully the NFL gets it right. I think they do need to move it to Minnesota, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a Chiefs fan and I would love the Chiefs to basically have a game closer to them and they can draw fans. It's just this whole hurricane situation is very unfortunate. I think the NFL needs to do right, and I don't think it needs to be held in Tampa. Now, as we dive into the injury report, the Kansas City Chiefs got a familiar face back on limited participation, but it's someone the fans are excited to see, and hopefully he can be a go this week. But if not, Harrison Butker is out there. He is kicking, like I mentioned, in limited fashion, but it's good to see him out there. He was also with newly acquired Matthew Wright. I think that was right, Matthew Wright. He was on the Carolina practice squad, which familiar too. That's how we stole Harrison Butker too. I think Matthew Wright's resume is better than Amendola's. Again, I don't know too much about the guy. I'm not a huge kicking fanatic, but I did see he kicked a game winner in London for the Jaguars last year. So, hey, he's got that on his resume. He's very good within 40, and he's also good, I think, as long as 54. So if he is called up, maybe I feel a little more confident with him. Again, I don't know too much about him, so I don't know where my confidence level is at. And I don't know how confident I feel in Butker with his first game back, because it's kind of scary to see him come back, and if it's so soon too, because I don't know how hurt his ankle was. I did see he couldn't put pressure on it, so if he comes out and he can't put pressure on it and it could mess up a kick, last thing you want to see is one of the best kickers in the league get more hurt, and then also put him in a situation where he could cost a game. That's the last thing we want, is special teams to cost a game. So let's see if we need to bring Wright out there and make everything good and see what he provides for this team. But on another note too, Mecole Hardman, we saw he was dealing with a heel injury. He was out of practice today, and it brought Chiefs Kingdom to say that we saw it during the Colts game that he couldn't put a lot of pressure on it, but he played 65% of the snaps, and like Chiefs Kingdom was watching, it's like, where was Sky Moore? Like, why are you having an I combined two words, an injured and hobbled Hardman out there when you could have more and just see what he provides? A lot of us want to see more in this offense, and hopefully that will be this week. I don't know. Like, I can be optimistic all I want, but at the end of the day, I will mention in every single video, with the way Reed plays with these rookies, he's not going to see the field until mid-October, early November. It's just how it goes, unfortunately. I want to be wrong. I want to be really wrong. I want to see him take the field, because I mentioned in my prior video, we don't have many receivers that can beat man coverage. Like, after Juju, it's no one. And that's just Travis and Juju. I believe Sky Moore can do it. We've seen him do it in college. We've seen him do it in I almost said preseason, but we didn't get to see too much of that. But in training camp, let's see what the kid can do. Like, what's it going to hurt? Like, right now, they're struggling in the receiving game. Maybe he can bring them a spark. Maybe it'll be something exciting moving forward. But with that, we're going to stick on the injury note too. And Chris Jones, he wasn't at practice today. For what reason, I don't know. I didn't get that kind of details. I just know he wasn't out there. We'll have to monitor that day by day. I don't think he will miss this game. I don't think so, but again, I don't know what he's dealing with, what's going forward. We'll just have to monitor it moving forward. And then Mike Dana, he was a limited participant. It'd be great to have him back out there, even though the pass rush was one of the most impressive things in the Colts game. 5 sacks, they were doing their thing. The whole defense was doing their thing as a unit. Again, I just hate thinking about the Colts game because they literally laid an egg, and it should have been an easy W, and it wasn't. And it's time to move forward, and that's what the Buccaneers are all about, and it's where you get your revenge from the Super Bowl. But speaking of the Buccaneers, they are trying to bounce back after a very unfortunate loss against the Packers, where it was basically an unfortunate 2-point conversion they couldn't get, and now they're trying to make it right against the Kansas City Chiefs, who they obliterated in the Super Bowl. And they're getting it right. They're getting Mike Evans back off of a suspension. They're getting their receiving core back. Julio Jones should be healthy. Is his name Todd Boyles? See, I'm drawing blanks. Yeah, Todd Boyles, the head coach, did say that Julio Jones basically could have played last week, but they wanted to get him ready for this week. And I don't know if that was just preparation for the Kansas City Chiefs, but it feels like, come on. Like, are you guys really looking ahead and trying to be fully healthy against the Chiefs? I'm not looking too much into that, but hey, that's what it felt like. But Brady's getting his weapons back. Chris Godwin, I don't think he practiced today, but if he did, it was limited. And I don't know if he'll be ready for this game. I think he's another week out, but if he is, the Bucs are going to be fully loaded against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a great test for this defense, who has basically answered the bell every game thus far. And if Brady and the Bucs have all his weapons and Leonard Fournette back there, that would be a huge challenge, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs are ready for it. So mainly in this video, we're not going to break down things or what I'm looking out for, what the Kansas City Chiefs should do. Both teams are going to be fighting for a big win after unfortunate losses. We already know that. It's going to be a great game too. And Tampa's going to be fighting for a lot and fighting for a city, and Kansas City's going to be fighting for revenge on a Super Bowl. So this should be a highly entertaining game. But what I want to mostly focus on is Shaquille Barrett had some comments where he feels it's going to be a coming out party, and he doesn't think this Kansas City Chiefs O-line has changed whatsoever. And we're going to talk about that and dissect every little thing into that small little quote. And let's get right into it. Now, when he says nothing has changed about this O-line, I mean, give it for what it's worth. If you're just going to look on the names of the line, you're not paying attention because all 5 guys are different. So now if he's basing it off of performance and he watched last week's game, I can give him that because last week they looked pretty bad. So if he was just watching the Colts game, I understand where you're coming from. Now, if you watched all of last year and then coming into this year and off season and these newly acquired guys, you're sadly mistaken. And if you're just going to base it off the Colts game, it might not be the coming out party you expect. Now, I will say, people who need to answer the bell, and one main individual in himself, and a lot of you know where I'm going here, is Orlando Brown Jr. This game right here was the main reason you were signed or traded to become a Kansas City Chief. Maybe not for a week 4 performance, but it was because of what happened to us in the Super Bowl against this team, and you need to show why you were a good upgrade over a Mike Rimmers at left tackle, and was it Wiley? See, it was all messed up. Like, I'm trying to draw that game out of my head so much, but as Chiefs Kingdom knows, it's hard to erase that. Orlando Brown Jr. has to make a great impression on this game. Literally, if you don't allow no pressures in this game, allow Mahomes not to get sacked, and literally Mahomes has a beautiful pocket all game, I guarantee you everyone's going to forget about your Indianapolis Colts performance. I 100% guarantee it. And it's just because of what happened to this team in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. And that goes for actually everyone on this line, but I think it's more of a priority, and most people are going to focus on Orlando Brown Jr. because he has struggled throughout the season, and he hasn't looked like that top left tackle he wants to be. And I'm going to mention it like I do in every video. He's got to set the bar. And if you want to set the bar at being paid, you got to set the bar when you're playing too. And it just hasn't been there. If you want to make a statement, this would be the perfect game to start. We know what Joe Tooney's going to do. We know what Creed Humphrey's going to do. Trey Smith, I love him. He's a great player. He's a dog. He's a baller. He's had his inconsistent plays starting his sophomore year. I'd love to see him come out and just dog people out. And then Andrew Wiley at right tackle. He has been inconsistent, but also, too, I have seen the brighter upside with him on this offensive line. And I think he's been solid at that right tackle position where he is not allowed too much pressures. And if he could shut down that side, and if this whole line can come in one and Mahomes can make his plays, this is going to be like the game in the regular season of that year, not the Super Bowl. So I don't see the Buccaneers having a coming out party. But also, too, I'm not going to be so optimistic that I would say I don't see the Kansas City Chiefs playing a perfect game. There will be pressures. There will be sacks. This is the best defense in the league, and Mahomes addressed that as well. So they're going to have to scheme it, and they're going to have to find ways to stop the pressure. And I got to stop that because you heard it. I'm so stuck on this Indianapolis Colts game. That's how much it got to me. We really should be 3-0. And I hope those boys feel it. And they do feel it because if you watch their interviews and stuff like that, they all took it personal. Even Kelsey, he has a podcast with his brother now. You saw his instant reaction. He did not like losing this game. And they all know they literally laid an egg and dropped a ball. And a lot of Chiefs Kingdom knows too, it's going to be hard to get over that loss until you get a win. And last thing you want to do is have back-to-back losses because once you do that, it is hard to win in this league. Every game is hard to win. We always mention it. But at the end of the day, this would be a great bounce back against the see, I am struggling, you guys. I want to say Indianapolis Colts so bad. But against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this line needs to get right. So like I was mentioning, do I think this line is going to play perfect against one of the top defenses, if the best defense in the league? No, I don't. But I do feel like they can hold their ground. And I do feel like it will be way better than it was in the Super Bowl. I do feel like Mahomes will have time. I just need Mahomes to be himself, basically. Don't feel like you got to play hero ball. Don't feel like you got to do too much. Trust your line. Because we've seen when he trusts his line, he is unstoppable. We saw it against the Cardinals. We saw it against the Chargers, too. Even though there was inconsistencies in that Chargers game, when we saw him step up in the pocket and throw a beautiful touchdown pass to Justin Watson, that was a thing of beauty. If he could trust his line where he could step in the pocket and not scramble too much, he's going to be great. But if the Buccaneers make him scramble too, he can be great as well. So it's things to watch out for like that. And I do want to mention a couple of things. It's actually two guys. It's two former Buccaneers. I don't know. I feel like Justin Watson has this game marked on him. And I feel like he's due for another 40 to 50-yard touchdown too. And I can bet Mahomes is going to try to get him open, scheme him open, and find a way to get him the ball. Now, I do want to mention the running game a little more too because I don't think the running game has struggled at all. Now, in the Colts game, yeah, it wasn't successful at all, but none of the offense was. So I know this is basically fresh in our minds and we forget what they did against the Chargers and what they did against the Cardinals. But at the end of the day, this running game has been successful, and the screen game can be successful too. Reed just has to scheme the right plays together, and I'm going to mention the other former Buccaneer, and Ronald Jones. I think this would be a great game to have him activated, and maybe it would be risky to say. I think you keep Pacheco activated because, of course, he's your special teams returner. I think you might have to basically sit Jet McKinnon and see what kind of boost Ronald Jones does. Like, why else do you have him on this team? Like, don't have him inactive every week. See what he can do. See what he can provide. We know he's got that burst. If he can find a hole, which tends to be the issue with a lot of these running backs. Again, our running game has been good, but at the end of the day, you see the clips where CEH misses a hole or Pacheco misses a hole. Let's see if Ronald Jones can find a hole and just burst straight through it. He's got that speed. If he's just a straight line runner and he runs in between Creed Humphreys and Trey Smith and just boom, that might be something to watch out for. But I hope he's activated, and I hope he actually gets a chance to show himself, because just because you're activated doesn't mean you get to see the field. But Casey does like to rotate their running backs. I think the two former Tampa Bay Buccaneers could be in for, I don't want to say big days, but they could have some splash plays. And I could be saying all that, and then Ronald Jones not be activated, and then a lot of Chiefs Kingdom will go on social media and be like, what are we doing here? But with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to close out this short video. Let me know how you feel about this game moving forward. But before I do that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. I'm going to take out. Y'all take care.